Sharmishtha and Devyani. Sharmishtha was the daughter of Vrishpava, the king of the Danvas. Sharmishtha and Devyani were great friends, until Indra played some mischief. The two friends had gone to bathe in a pond and had left their clothes on the bank. Indra adopted the form of a breeze and mixed up the clothes. When Sharmishtha donned her clothes after having had her bath, she put on Devyani's clothes by mistake. Devyani said, "How dare you wear my clothes? My father is your father's teacher and you are my inferior in every respect. You have no business to put on my clothes. I am not your inferior. Replied Sharmishtha. It is you who are my inferior. My father is the king and your father thrives on my father's generosity. The two friends started to quarrel. Sharmishtha flung Devyani into a well and left her there, taking her to be dead. At that time, King Yayati came to the forest on a hunt. He was thirsty and looked for some water. When he found the well, he discovered Devyani inside it. He rescued Devyani. Yayati also fell in love with her, so that the two got married. Shukracharya got to know about all this and was furious at the treatment that Sharmishtha had meted out to his daughter. He threatened to leave the demons. Vrishpava did his best to persuade Shukracharya not to leave them, but Shukracharya insisted that he would stay only if Devyani was pacified. Vrishpava promised to give Devyani whatever it was that she wished for. Sharmishtha has insulted me, said Devyani. She has called me her inferior. My mind will be set at rest only if Sharmishtha serves as a servant. Vrishpava agreed to this condition and Sharistha became Devyani's servant, together with 1,000 other demon women. After Yayati and Devyani got married, Shukracharya told Yayati, Sharmishtha is Devyani's servant and you are married to Devyani. Under no circumstances marry Sharmishtha, otherwise I am going to curse. In due course, Devyani gave birth to Yadu and Turvasu. Sharmishtha had secretly married Yayati and she too gave birth to Druhaye, Anu and Puru. How came you to have sons? Asked Devyani. Who is your husband? My husband is a Brahmana, replied Sharmishtha. I do not know his name. But when Devyani asked Druhaye, Anu and Puru about their father, the truth came out. They told her that they were King Yayati's sons. You have insulted me, Devyani told Yayati. Will remain your wife no longer. You have married my servant. Shukracharya was also furious. Yayati had gone against his wishes and had married Sharmishtha. Shukracharya cursed Yayati that old age would set upon the king, although he was still in the prime of youth. Please do not curse me, said Yayati. I am married to your daughter. I wish to live with her as her husband. Do you wish your son-in-law to be an old servant? My curse cannot be lifted, replied Shukracharya. But I will try and mitigate the effects. I grant you the power that you can pass on this old age to whomsoever you wish. It was this old age that Puru accepted. Mrita Sanjeevani. But what about Mrita Sanjeevani? Asked the sages. You haven't told us how Shukracharya came to acquire this wonderful knowledge. Lumaharshana told them the following story. The gods and the demons fought all the time and the demons were sometimes worsted in these encounters. Shukracharya consoled the demons. Do not worry, he said. I will try and acquire powers that will make the demons invincible. I am going off to pray. While I am gone, do not fight with the gods. Give up arms and lead the lives of hermits. Wait till my return. Shukracharya's father was the sage Bhrigu. The demons were instructed to wait in Bhrigu's hermitage for Shukracharya's return. The preceptor of the demons began to pray to Shiva. When Shiva appeared, Shukracharya told him that he wished to be taught a mantra that would make the demons invincible. "I will grant your request," said Shiva. "But you will have to observe a difficult vrata, religious rite. For 1,000 years you will have to meditate. And you will have to live only on smoke." Shukracharya agreed to observe the vrata. Meanwhile, the gods got to know what Shukracharya was up to. They realized that, once Shukracharya returned, they would be in no position to tackle the demons. The best thing to do was to attack the demons immediately, when they had given up arms and were living as hermits. The demons tried to tell the gods that this was not fair. They should not be attacked when they had forsaken arms. But the gods would not listen. They started to kill the demons. The demons fled to Shukracharya's mother, Bhrigu's wife, for protection. "Do not despair," she assured the demons. "I will protect you." When the gods attacked, the lady used her powers to make Indra completely immobile. Indra could not move at all. He stood there like a statue. This strange sight unnerved the gods so much that they started to run away. Vishnu came to help Indra. He told Indra to enter his body, so that Vishnu might be able to save him. "I will burn both of you up through my powers," said Shukracharya's mother. "What are you waiting for?" Indra asked Vishnu. "Can't you see that this woman will destroy us both? Kill her at once." Vishnu summoned up his Sudarshana chakra, and with this, he neatly severed the lady's head. The sage Bhrigu was not present at that time. When he returned and found out what had happened, he was greatly angered. Vishnu had committed the crime of killing a woman. Bhrigu therefore cursed Vishnu that he would have to be born several times on earth. These are Vishnu's avatras, incarnations. As for his own wife, Bhrigu resurrected her through his powers. Indra had a daughter named Jayanti. Having failed in his attempt to kill the demons, Indra reasoned that he ought to try and disturb Shukracharya's meditation. He therefore sent Jayanti to the place where Shukracharya was praying. Her instructions were to try and distract the sage. Jayanti served Shukracharya faithfully throughout the appointed period of 1,000 years. When the vrata was over, Shiva appeared before Shukracharya and taught him the art of Mrita Sanjeevani. It was then that Shukracharya noticed Jayanti. "Who are you?" he asked. "And why have you been serving me thus? I am exceedingly pleased with what you have done. Tell me what I can do for you. If you wish to grant me a boon, marry me and live as my husband for 10 years, replied Jayanti. Shukracharya was lured away by Jayanti. Indra was bent upon ensuring the destruction of the demons, and he now hit upon a plan. He asked Brihaspati to adopt Shukracharya's form and go to the demons. The demons were expecting their guru back after the 1,000 years were over and took Brihaspati to be Shukracharya. They honored him and served him faithfully. When the 10 years with Jayanti were over, Shukracharya returned and discovered Brihaspati among the demons. "Who is this upstart?" he demanded to know. "Give him up and seek refuge with me. I am the real Shukracharya." "Not at all," replied Brihaspati. "I am the real Shukracharya." The demons were bemused. Brihaspati and Shukracharya were as alike as two peas in a pod. There was no way of telling them apart. They finally reasoned that the person who had been living with them for the last 10 years must be their real guru. They therefore accepted Brihaspati and shooed Shukracharya away. Shukracharya cursed the demons that they were bound to be destroyed. As soon as Shukracharya cursed the demons, Brihaspati adopted his own form. The demons realized that they had been tricked. but the harm had been done. The Puranas Lumahashana now gave the sages a list of the 18 Mahapuranas. In the beginning, there was only one Purana. The sage Vyasa divided this original Purana into 18 Mahapuranas. The Mahapuranas have 4 lakh shlokas altogether, and their names are as follows. I. The Brahma Purana. This was originally recited by Brahma to the sage Marichi and has 13,000 shlokas. This text should be donated on a full moon night, Purnima, in the month of Vaishnava. Such a donation brings undying punya. 2. The Padma Purana. This has 55,000 shlokas and should be donated in the month of Jyeshtha. 3. The Vishnu Purana. This was first recited by the sage Parashara and has 23,000 shlokas. It is auspicious to donate this text in the month of Ashta. 4. The Vayu Purana. This has 24,000 shlokas and was first recited by the wind god Vayu. It should be donated in the month of Shravana. V. The Bhagavata Purana. This has 18,000 shlokas and should be donated in the month of Bhadra, on the night of the full moon. 6. The Narada Purana. This was first recited by the sage Narada and has 25,000 shlokas. It should be donated on the night of the new moon, Amvasya, in the month of Ashwina. 7. The Markandeya Purana. This has 9,000 shlokas. A person desirous of obtaining punya should donate this text in month of Margashirsa. 8. The Agni Purana. This was first recited by the fire god Agni to the sage Vasishtha. It has 16,000 shlokas and should be donated in the month of Margashirsha. 9. The Bhavishya Purana. Brahma himself was the first reciter of this Purana and it has 14,500 shlokas. It is primarily concerned with what is due to happen in the future. The text should be donated on the occasion of Purnima, in the month of Posha. Kiss Smiley the Brahmavivata Purana. This was first recited by Savarni Manu to the sage Narada. It has 18,000 shlokas and should be donated on Purnima in the month of Magha. 11. The Ling Purana. Brahma recited this first and it has 11,000 shlokas. Punya is acquired if this text is donated in the month of Falguna. 12. The Vara Purana. The great Vishnu first recited this to the earth. It has 24,000 shlokas and is to be donated in the month of Chaitra. 13. The Skanda Purana. This was composed by the god Skanda or Kartikeya. It has 81,000 shlokas and one desirous of punya donates the text in the month of Chaitra. 14. The Vaman Purana. Brahma was the first person to recite this. It has 10,000 shlokas and the text should be donated in early autumn, Sharat. 15. The Kurma Purana. Vishnu recited this in his form of a turtle. It has 18,000 shlokas and should be donated at the time of the equinoxes. 16. The Matsya Purana. Vishnu recited this in his form of a fish to Manu. It has 14,000 shlokas and should be donated at the time of the equinoxes. 17. The Garuda Purana. Krishna was the first person to recite this and it has 18,000 shlokas. 18. The Brahmanda Purana. Brahma recited this and it has 12,200 shlokas. But these Puranas, as stated, are merely for human consumption. Much longer versions are read by the gods. The total number of shlokas in the Puranas that the gods read is 100 crores. Tripura there was a Danva named Maya. Just as Vishwakarma was the architect of the gods, Maya was the architect of the demons. When the demons were defeated by the gods, Maya started to perform very difficult tapasya so that the gods might be defeated. Maya's meditation inspired two other demons to also meditate. Their names were Vidunmali and Tharaka. The meditation was so difficult that the world marveled at the sight of what the demons were doing. Finally, Brahma was pleased at all this effort and appeared before the demons. "I am pleased with what you have done," said Brahma. "What boon do you want?" "We have been defeated by the gods," replied Maya. "We wish to build a fort that the gods will not be able to destroy. The fort will be named Tripura and we will live in it and become immortal. Immortality is a boon that cannot be granted," said Brahma. "If you want, set fairly difficult conditions for your deaths." "Very well then," replied Maya. "We will be killed only if Shiva himself destroys Tripura with a single arrow. Let that be the appointed method of our deaths." This boon Brahma granted, and Maya began the task of constructing the fort. In fact, he built three fortresses, Pura. One was made of iron, the second of silver, and the third of gold. Normally, the fortresses were distinct. But once every 1,000 years, when the nakshatra Pushya was in the sky, the three cities came together in the sky and were called Tripura. Each of the fortresses was stocked with diverse weapons as protections against raids by the gods. Tharaka lived in the fort made of iron, Vidunmali in the one made of silver, and Maya himself lived in the one that was made of gold. The other demons got to know that three invincible forts had been built. They came and populated the three cities. But the demons were not evil at all. They observed all sorts of religious rites. In particular, they were devoted to Shiva and prayed to him all the time. They did not want Shiva to be angry with them. It was, after all, Shiva alone who could be the instrument for their destruction. But eventually, the demons became intoxicated with their own power and came upon evil ways. They warred upon other living beings and started to oppress the universe. Maya did try to persuade them to mend their ways, but the demons would not listen to Maya's good advice. All the living beings in the universe went to Brahma to complain. "Please save us from this oppression," they said. "It is because of your boon that the demons have become so powerful." "I cannot help you," replied Brahma. "The boon is such that Shiva alone can destroy Tripura. Let us all pray to Shiva." The gods, the sages and the humans started to pray to Shiva. Pleased with these prayers, Shiva promised to destroy Tripura. A special chariot was built for Shiva to ride in. Brahma himself agreed to be the charioteer. The army of the gods got ready to help Shiva in his war against Tripura. A terrible war raged between the gods and the demons. Nandi is one of Shiva's companions. Nandi fought with Vidunmali and slew the demon after a fierce battle. But Maya knew all sorts of magical tricks. He was particularly well versed in the use of herbs. Maya gave Vidunmali a bath in the juice of magical herbs and Vidunmali immediately revived. This act greatly boosted the demons' morale and they began to fight with renewed vigor. Any demons who were killed were instantly revived by Maya. But when Shiva himself entered the fray, the demons were put to flight. Even the herbs that resurrected dead demons proved to be of no avail. Nandi killed Taraksura after a fierce duel. The demons were disheartened, but Maya reassured them. "Don't forget the boon," he said. "There are only some special conditions under which Tripura can be destroyed. Otherwise it is indestructible. Pushya Nakshatra is in the sky now and soon the three cities will come together as one. The only person who can destroy it then is Shiva. And he must do it with a single arrow. All we have to do is ensure that Shiva cannot shoot the arrow and we are safe. But this was easier said than done. It was no mean task to repel Shiva and his cohorts. Nandi killed Vidunmali a second time. As soon as the three cities came together, Shiva shot a flaming arrow which completely burned up Tripura and all the demons who were within. The only one who was saved was Maya. He did not die because he was extremely devoted to Shiva. Ever since that day, Maya has lived under the water. The measurement of time, the smallest unit of time is a nimesha. This is the amount of time it takes to blink. 15 nimshas make 1 kashta and 30 kashtas are 1 kala. 30 kalas 1 muhurta and there are 30 muhurtas in 1 divratra, 1 day. 15 muhurtas constitute the day and 15 muhurtas make up the night. 1 month for humans is 1 day for the ancestors, Pitri. Shuklapaksh is the lunar fortnight during which the moon waxes and Krishnapaksh is the lunar fortnight during which the moon wanes. Shuklapaksh corresponds to night for the ancestors and Krishnapaksh corresponds to day. Thus, 30 human months are merely 1 month for the ancestors. 360 human months are 1 year for the ancestors. 1 human year is 1 Divartara for the gods. The human year is divided into 2 ayanas, each consisting of 6 months. These are known as Uttarayana and Dakshinyana. Uttarayana is day for the gods and Dakshinyana is night. 30 human years are 1 month for the gods and 360 human years are 1 year for the gods. Time is divided into 4 yugas, eras. These are known as Satya Yuga or Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga. The lengths of these yugas are defined in terms of years of the gods. Satya Yuga has 4,000 years of the gods, Treta Yuga 3,000, Dwapara Yuga 2,000 and Kali Yuga 1,000. A cycle of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga and Kali Yuga is known as a Mahayuga. Thus, a Mahayuga would seem to consist of 10,000 years of the gods. But this is not quite correct. In between any 2 yugas are intervening periods, known as Sandhyanshas. For example, the Sandhyansha for Satya Yuga is 400 years, for Treta Yuga 300 years, for Dwapara Yuga 200 years and for Kali Yuga 100 years. Once one adds the Sandhyanshas, a Mahayuga adds up to 12,000 years of the gods. A little over 71 yugas constitute 1 Manvantara. 14 such Manvantaras are 1 kalpa. A kalpa is merely 1 day for Brahma. At the end of Brahma's day, the universe is destroyed. It is then created afresh when a new day dawns for Brahma. The characteristics of the yugas as one progressively moves down the scale from Satya Yuga to Kali Yuga, the power of righteous diminishes and evil starts to triumph. In Treta Yuga people were righteous. The system of Varnashrama dharma goes back to Treta Yuga. This is typified in the principle of 4 Varnas, classes, and 4 ashramas, stages of life. The 4 Varnas are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. Each class has its proper place, each its assigned occupations as determined by the principles of division of labor. The 4 ashramas are Brahmacharya, celibate studenthood, Grahastya, householder stage, Vanaprastha, forest dwelling stage, and Sannyasa, hermithood. Everyone followed the tenets of Varnashrama Ahrama in Treta Yuga. Individuals were equally handsome and equally wealthy. Poverty and disease were unknown. The weather was clement and, initially, there was no need to build houses. Cities and villages were not known. People lived freely in the mountains and on the shores of the oceans. But as people became evil, the weather turned inclement. Houses had to build so the people might be protected from the heat and the cold. Cities and villages were planned and constructed. Evil became even more prevalent in Dwapara Yuga. In some cases, individuals began to practice that which was against the dictates of Varnashrama dharma. To bring men back to the righteous path, the knowledge of the sacred Vedas had to be disseminated amongst humans. To this end, the great Veda Vyasa divided the Vedas into 4. Various other Shastras, sacred texts, were also composed in Dwapara Yuga. These include Ayurveda, medicine, Jyotisha, astronomy, and Arthashastra, economics. Hatred, jealousy, warfare and other evils first originated in Dwapara Yuga. Individuals did not stick to their own classes while marrying, and crossbreeds started to be born. But some remnants of righteousness could still be found, so that average life expectancies amounted to 2000 years. Kali Yuga is the worst of the 4 eras. Theft, hatred, falsehood, fraudulence and egotism become the norm. As a natural corollary to such evils, drought and famine recur again and again. Even the Brahmins are led astray. They do not study the Vedas, nor do they perform yajnas. The Brahmanas degenerate so much that they mix with Shudras. As for the Shudras, they become kings. Can anything more ridiculous be imagined? Shudras even start to study the Vedas. Evil always has its effect. Disease becomes rampant and life expectancies go down. Vajranaga Indra had killed many of Ditya's children, the Daityas. Diti had wished to obtain a son who would kill Indra. But because she had not been able to adhere to the stipulated religious rites, the sons who had been born had become friends and companions of Indra. But Indra continued to attack and kill the demons. Diti therefore prayed to her husband Kashyapa yet again that she might have a son who would defeat Indra. "Your wish will be granted," said Kashyapa. "But you will have to meditate hard for 10,000 years. Indra's weapon is the Vajra and the son who will be born will have a body, Anga, that is as tough as the Vajra will be able to do him no harm." Diti meditated for 10,000 years and in due course, gave birth to this powerful son. Vajranga was invincible. When Vajranga grew up, Diti told her son, "Indra has killed many of my sons. I am thirsting for revenge. Go and kill Indra." Vajranga set for heaven. He defeated Indra very easily and tied him up. He then brought Indra home to his mother and prepared to kill the king of the gods. Indra's death would have been a great calamity and Brahma and Kashyapa rushed there. "Vajranga," they said, "please do not kill Indra. Let him go. If someone who deserves respect is insulted, that is like death for him. Indra has been defeated by you. He has therefore been insulted and is as good as dead. There is no need to physically kill him. Moreover, the very fact that you are letting Indra go at our request will be known to all. Even if he lives, everyone is going to regard him as dead. Listen to our request and let him go." "I am not averse to that suggestion at all," replied Vajranga. "I have no intention of killing Indra. I was merely obeying my mother's instructions. How can I refuse two such revered individuals like you? One of you is the creator of the whole universe and the other one is my own father. I will let Indra go. But please grant me a boon. Grant me the boon that I may be able to perform a lot of tapasya." This boon was readily granted. In addition, Brahma created a beautiful woman named Varangi and married her off to Vajranga. Vajranga went to the forest to meditate. For 1,000 years, he stood with his arms raised up towards the sky. And in this posture, he meditated. He then stood on his head for 1,000 years more and meditated. As a final part of the tapasya, he wished to meditate under the water for 1,000 years more. When Vajranga entered the water, his wife Varangi patiently waited for her husband to return. And all the while, she too meditated. But Indra was not going to let sleeping dogs lie. He adopted the form of a monkey and uprooted all the trees in Varangi's hermitage. He next adopted the form of a sheep and ate up all the grass that was there. As a snake, he tried to bite the lady. Finally, he adopted the form of a cloud and drenched the hermitage in torrents of rain. Since Varangi was meditating, she was in no position to retaliate or protect herself. She had to bear all these depredations. When the 1,000 years were over, Vajranga returned. He was shocked to learn of the tortures that his wife had been subjected to by Indra. He began to meditate again. This time, he wished for a son who would kill Indra. Brahma appeared and granted Vajranga the desired boon. "You will have a son who will be the scourge of the gods," said Brahma. "He will be called Taraka. For 1,000 years Varangi bore the baby in her womb. When Taraka was born, the earth trembled and tidal waves were created in the ocean. Fierce storms started to rage. Wild animals rejoiced and the sages shuddered. In due course, Taraka was crowned the king of the demons. Taraka's tapasya Tarka was hell-bent upon defeating the gods. But he realized that, prior to waging war on the gods, he would have to become powerful. Such powers could not be attained through tapasya. Taraka went to the Pariparta mountains and selected a cave there for his meditation. For some days Taraka ate nothing, for some more days he survived only on water, and on other days he ate only leaves. Every day he sliced off some flesh from his body and offered it to the fire as a token of his devotion. All this hardship pleased Brahma and he appeared before Taraka. "Enough is enough," said Brahma. "I am pleased at your devotion. What boon can I grant you?" "I want to fight with the gods," replied Taraka. "The gods have been giving the demons a hard time and I intended to reverse the tide. Please grant me the boon that I may be invincible and immortal." "Immortality is not a boon that can be granted to any living being," said Brahma. "All living beings must die. But if you want, set fairly difficult conditions for your death. In that case, please grant me the boon that I can only be killed by a 7-year-old child," requested Taraka. Brahma gladly granted this boon. The war between the gods and the demons fortified with Brahma's boon. Taraka started to rule the demons. After some years had passed and after Taraka had raised a strong army, he decided to attack heaven. A huge army of demons was accordingly raised. There were thousands of elephants, horses and chariots in the army. Apart from Taraka, the major generals in the army were Jamba, Kujamba, Mahesha, Kunjara, Megha, Kalanemi, Nimi, Matna, Jambaka, and Kshumba. Diverse were the weapons that the demons armed themselves with. The gods also prepared themselves for the war, having first appointed Yam as their general. Yam rode into battle on a buffalo. Indra had his chariot, driven by his charioteer Matali. The fire god Agni rode on a goat and Varuna, the lord of the oceans, rode a snake. Amongst the other gods who were in the army were Chandra, Surya and Kuber, the god of prosperity and wealth. The war was terrible to behold. The trumpeting of elephants, The neighing of horses and the beating of drums made a terrible racket. Above all this there was the noise of weapons clanging and bows twanging. Chariots fought with chariots, elephants with elephants, horses with horses and foot soldiers with foot soldiers. The sky was thick with spears, maces, axes, swords, tridents, clubs and arrows flying around. Dead bodies littered the battlefield and rivers of blood began to flow. Yam fought a fierce duel with a demon named Grasana and Kuber fought with Jamba. Kujamba also fought with Kuber and put Kuber to flight. Kalanemi fought with both Chandra and Surya. The two Ashwinis received a sound thrashing at Kalanemi's hands. The news that the gods were being slaughtered reached Vishnu and Vishnu joined the fight. The demons immediately attacked Vishnu, but were no match for him. One of Vishnu's misses knocked Kalanemi unconscious. Vishnu's kakra sliced off Grasana's head. Jamba did manage to knock Vishnu unconscious with a club. But Indra slew Jamba with a divine weapon. The trouble, however, was with Taraka. When he came to fight, the gods had no option but to flee. Those who did not, were captured and imprisoned. The demon won a resounding victory. Brahmas advised those of the gods who had survived the battle and were still free started to pray to Brahma. "What can I do for you?" asked Brahma. "Why are all of you looking so despondent? You are the one who is responsible for our misfortune," replied the gods. "You have granted Taraka a boon that has made him virtually invincible. Armed with this boon, he is oppressing the universe and has soundly thrashed us. What are we to do now?" "There is no cause for such despondency," said Brahma. "Taraka is not immortal. He will be slain by a 7-year-old child. Unfortunately, that child has not yet been born. He will be the son of Shiva. The problem is that Shiva is unmarried. He was earlier married to Sati, but Sati immolated herself at the time of a yajna. She has now been reborn as Parvati. The task at hand is to get Shiva and Parvati married. Their son will kill Taraka. It was necessary to make Shiva fall in love with Parvati. Madana, the god of love, was sent by Indra to Shiva's hermitage so that this might be achieved. But because this disturbed Shiva's meditation, Shiva burned Madana up. Meanwhile, Parvati had begun to perform tapasya so that she might have Shiva for a husband. For 100 years more, she ate only one leaf a day. And for the final 100 years, she meditated fasting. The 7 great sages went and told Shiva about Parvati's tapasya and Shiva agreed to marry Parvati. The marriage took place amidst a great deal of fanfare. All the rivers and the mountains came to attend the ceremony. So did the sages, the gods, the Gandharvas, the Apsaras and the Yakshas. Brahma himself acted as the priest for the marriage ceremony. Kali becomes Gauri on one particular occasion. Shiva addressed Parvati as Kali. The word Kali means dark and Parvati thought that Shiva referring to her dark complexion. She did not realize that Shiva was merely trying to tease her a bit. Greatly incensed at the imagined slight, Parvati decided that she would meditate so that she might become fair. She wore clothing made of barks of trees and performed tapasya. In the summer she prayed inside a raging fire and in the winter she prayed under the water. Sometimes, she ate only roots and fruits. At other times, she fasted. Prior to leaving for her tapasya, Parvati had instructed Nandi that he was to stand guard at Shiva's door and permit no other woman to enter. There was a demon named Adi. This fellow had performed a lot of tapasya and had managed to please Brahma. When Brahma agreed to grant him a boon, Adi asked for the boon of immortality. Brahma naturally refused this boon. He however granted Adi the boon that the demon would die only when he changed his form twice, not otherwise. Adi happened to come to Shiva and Parvati's house and discovered Nandi standing guard at the door. Wondering what there was to be guarded, he adopted the form of a snake and slithered in. Nandi did not notice the snake, but this was Adi's first transformation. Inside the house, Adi encountered Shiva and thought that he would play a trick on Shiva. He adopted Parvati's form. This was his second transformation. In the form of Parvati, Adi went up to Shiva and greeted him. Initially, Shiva did not realize that this was not Parvati. He greeted the demon and said, "Darling, I am delighted that you have returned. I can see that your rage has cooled down. But in a little while Shiva realized that this was not Parvati. He slew the demon. Meanwhile, Parvati was continuing with her tapasya and pleased Brahma with her prayers. Brahma granted her the boon that she would become fair. Since the word Gauri means fair, Parvati was thereafter known as Gauri. A goddess named Kaushiki emerged out of Parvati's cells, thus named because the word Kosha means cell. The darkness of Parvati's complexion entered Kaushiki's body. Brahma requested the goddess Kaushiki to go and live in the Vindhya mountains. She is therefore also known as Vindhyavasini. Kartikeya and Tharaka. Kartikeya or Skanda was born after some days. The boys shone with the radiance of 1,000 suns and had 6 Shada faces, Anana. He was therefore also known as Shadanana. The gods armed Kartikeya with diverse weapons and appointed him their general. They requested him to kill the demon Tharaka and arrangements were made for the battle. When Tharaka saw Kartikeya, he said, "What is a boy like you doing in a battlefield? Go and play with a ball instead. A battlefield is not the place for idle talk," replied Kartikeya. "Show me your prowess instead." At these words, Tharaka flung a club at Kartikeya. But Kartikeya easily repelled the club with a vajra. The demon next hurled an axe, but Kartikeya effortlessly caught the axe in his hand. He then struck the demon with a club of his own. This angered Tharaka so much that the demon showered all sorts of weapons on Kartikeya. But the boy repelled all of these and started to kill demons with his own weapons. Many demons fled in dismay. As for Tharaka himself, Kartikeya's spear pierced him in the chest and killed him. Thus it was that Brahma's boon became true. Hiranyakashipu. Diti had a son named Hiranyakashipu. This demon meditated for 11,000 years under the water. Throughout this period, he did not eat or talk at all. These meditations pleased Brahma and Brahma offered to grant Hiranyakashipu a boon. "What boon do you wish for?" he asked. "If you are pleased, grant me the following boon," replied the demon. "I will not be killed by gods, demons, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Rakshasas or snakes. I will not be killed by humans or ghosts. The sages will not be able to curse me. I will not killed by a weapon, a mountain or a tree. I will not be killed during the day or at night. I will not be killed by something that is dry or by something that is wet." This rather strange boon Brahma granted. But the sages, the gods, the Gandharvas and the snakes went and complained to Brahma. "What have you done?" they asked. "This demon is now going to oppress the entire universe." "Don't worry," replied Brahma. "When the time comes, Vishnu himself will kill Hiranyakashipu." But true to expectations, the demon started to oppress the world. He destroyed the hermitages of the sages and drove the gods out of heaven. All yajnas were stopped. The gods and the sages started praying to Vishnu. Stirred by these prayers, Vishnu adopted the form of a strange being who was half man and half lion. Since Nara means man and Singha means lion, this being was called Narsimha. Narsimha went on a visit to Hiranyakashipu's court. Hiranyakashipu had a son named Prahlad, and at the sight of Narsimha, Prahlad exclaimed, "I have a strong suspicion that this being is none other than Vishnu and that we demons will suffer at his hands." Hiranyakashipu asked his soldiers to capture the creature, or, if that proved to be impossible, to kill it. But the soldiers could do no such thing. Narsimha killed them all. Hiranyakasipu then himself hurled all sorts of weapons at Narsimha. But great was his bewilderment at finding that all these weapons could do the strange creature no harm. Any weapons could do the strange creature no harm. Any weapon that was hurled was simply swallowed up by Narsimha. The rocks that were flung at him could not even reach him. Narsimha grasped Hiranyakashipu and placed him across his thighs. He then tore apart the demon's chest with his claws. Thus, Hiranyakashipu was not killed by a weapon, a mountain or a tree, or by something that was either wet or dry. Vishnu in his Narsimha form was not a god, a demon, a Gandharv, a Yaksh, a Rakshasa, a snake, a human or a ghost. Since the slaying took place in the evening, it was neither night nor day. All the conditions of Brahma's boon were met. The entire world rejoiced at the demon king's death. Savitri. There used to be a king named Ashwapati who ruled in the kingdom of Madra. Ashwapati had no sons. He therefore began to pray to the goddess Savitri so that he might have a son. He performed thousands and thousands of yajnas. Eventually the goddess appeared before the king and said, "You will not have a son. But I am going to grant you a daughter." The daughter was named Malti. But since she was born as a result of a boon received from the goddess Savitri, she was more popularly known as Savitri. When Savitri grew up, she was married to Satyavana, the son of King Dayumatsena. The sage Narada once came to visit them and told them, "Satyavana is going to die within a year." Hearing this, Savitri and Satyavana went off to the forest to prepare themselves for the impending death. When only 4 days of the appointed lifespan were left, Savitri observed a religious rite that has now become famous, Savitri Rata. Amongst other things, this involved fasting for a period of 3 days. On the fourth and final day, Satyavana went to collect fodder, roots and fruits in the dense part of the forest, and Savitri also accompanied her husband. When they were tired, Savitri sat down beside a pond to rest. Satyavana continued to collect fodder and firewood near the pond. While he was thus engaged, he started to suffer from a splitting headache. "Savitri," he said, "I cannot bear this pain any longer. Let me rest for a while with my head in your lap." While Satyavana was resting with his head on Savitri's lap, Yam arrived to claim Satyavana. Yam's complexion was dark and he was dressed entirely in yellow. His crown was golden. Armlets graced his arms and necklaces hung around his neck. In each human body there is an entity that is only the size of a finger in length. This is the part of the body that is claimed by Yam and taken to his abode. When this is done, only the dead body is left. Yam tied up Satyavana's minute body in a noose and prepared to take it to his abode. But when Yam left, Savitri followed him. "Where do you think you are going?" asked Yam. "I am following my husband," replied Savitri. "There is no greater duty for a wife than serving her husband. Since my husband is leaving, I have to leave with him. "I am pleased at your devotion," said Yam. "Ask for a boon and I shall grant it to you." The only thing that you cannot ask for is that Satyavana be brought back to life. My father-in-law has become blind, replied Savitri. He can therefore no longer be the king. Please grant me the boon that his eyesight is restored so that he can become the king again. I grant you that. Said Yam. Now please return. You will unnecessarily get tired if you follow me. How I can get tired if I follow you? Asked Savitri. You are the chief of all the gods. Is it possible to get tired if one follows you? That pleases me even more, said Yam. Ask for another boon. But under no circumstances are you allowed to ask that Satyavana be brought back to life. My father has no sons, replied Savitri. Please grant me the boon that he may have 100 sons. I grant you that, said Yam. Now return. Go and perform your husband's funeral rites. Serve your parents and parents-in-law well. You are unnecessarily tiring yourself by following me around. I thank you for your advice. Replied Savitri. But I have already told you that I cannot possibly get tired. You are the Lord of Dharma, the Lord of righteousness. Can one possibly tire oneself by following such a person? Your devotion is truly amazing. Ask for another boon. But do not ask for Satyavana's life. Please grant me the boon that Satyavana and I may have 100 sons, requested Savitri. Yam granted the boon without thinking, and Savitri then pointed out that what Yam had agreed to would be impossible if Satyavana died. Yam had no option but to restore Satyavana to life. Yam blessed Savitri and went away. In due course, Satyavana and Savitri had 100 sons named that Malvas. Savitri is a model for all devoted wives to follow. Vali. There was a demon named Vali who was descended from Hiranyakashipu. Extremely strong, he defeated the gods and drove them out of heaven. The mother of all the gods was Aditi, and Aditi was despondent that her sons should suffer so at the hands of demons. She therefore began to pray to Vishnu so that she might have a powerful son who would provide a fitting reply to he demons, particularly to Vali. For 1,000 years, Aditi meditated. Vishnu was pleased at these prayers and appeared before Aditi. What boon do you wish for? He asked. The demons are oppressing my children, replied Aditi. Please grant me a son who will defeat the demons. Do not despair, said Vishnu. I myself will be born as your son. I will take care of the demons. You will remember that Aditi's husband was the sage Kashyapa. Kashyapa and Aditi accordingly had a son. This son was a dwarf, Vaman. Vali happened to organize a yajna and the dwarf came to attend the ceremony. On the occasion of the yajna, Vali had decided that he would not refuse anyone what he asked for. Shukracharya was the preceptor of the demons and naturally, he was Vali, Guru as well. Shukracharya saw through the trickery that was involved and realized that the dwarf was none other than Vishnu. He tried to put Vali on his guard and warned Vali that he should not grant what the dwarf asked for. But Vali would not listen. Vishnu is the Lord of everything, he said. I am indeed fortunate if Vishnu has come to grace my ceremony in the disguise of a dwarf. How can I refuse what he asks for? Vali welcomed the dwarf with offerings. What is your desire? He asked. I am duty bound to give you what you ask for. I desire nothing much, replied the dwarf. I do not want gold or riches or elephants or horses. All that I ask for is as much of land as can be covered in 3 of my footsteps. Granted, said Vali. No sooner were the words uttered that he dwarf assumed a gigantic form. His head rose way up into the sky. With each one of his footsteps, Vishnu covered one of the 3 worlds. Thus Vali ended up by donating all of the three worlds to Vishnu, and there was nowhere for the demons to live in. But Vishnu was pleased at Vali's generosity. He therefore decreed that, henceforth, the demons would live in the underworld. As for heaven, it was returned to Indra. This was the story of Vishnu's dwarf incarnation. The boar incarnation. At the end of the last kalpa, there was a general destruction and the universe was flooded with water. Vishnu alone slept on this water in his form of Narayana. When it was time for creation to begin, Brahma appeared inside an egg. All the worlds that would be there in the universe and all the beings who would populate these worlds were inside the egg. But before creation could start, the earth had to be created so that living beings might have a place to live in. When the earth was first created, it was full of mountain ranges, and these mountains were exceedingly heavy. The upshot of this was that the earth could not bear the weight of these mountains and started to get immersed in the water. She went all the way down to the underworld. The earth started to pray to Vishnu so that she might be saved. Vishnu adopted the form of a gigantic boar, Vara. He entered the water and raised the earth up on his tusks. He laid her to rest on the water, having first leveled out the mountains. This was the story of Vishnu's boar incarnation. The churning of the ocean. The gods and the demons always fought with one another. In the process, many demons and gods were killed. This was no problem for the demons. Their teacher, Shukracharya, knew the art of Mrita Sanjeevani and immediately brought the dead demons back to life. But the gods who were killed stayed dead. The gods went to Brahma for his advice. Having a temporary truce with the demons, said Brahma, "Unite with them and churn the ocean. This churning will make you immortal and you will have no reason to fear the demons." The gods went to meet Vali, the king of the demons, with the proposal, and Vali agreed to the temporary truce. Preparations were made for the churning of the ocean. Mount Mandara was used as the rod for churning, and the great snake Vasuki agreed to be the churning rope. The problem, however, was the Mount Mandara had no base to rest on. And without a base, the peak would move and the churning could not proceed. The great Vishnu adopted the form of a huge turtle, Kurma. The back of the turtle provided the base on which Mount Mandara could rest. The churning started. The gods held Vasuki's tail and the demons the head. The churning went on for 1,000 years of the gods. The first object to emerge as a result of the churning was the moon, Chandra. Shiva accepted Chandra as an adornment for his forehead. Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity, merged next and was united with Vishnu. Sura, the goddess of wine and drinking, came out next. She was followed by the divine horse Uchchashrava. This was appropriated by Indra. A beautiful jewel named Kaustubha came out next and was accepted by Vishnu as his adornment. After these wondrous objects had come out, smoke started to billow out and clouded the atmosphere. The cloud was followed by tongues of fire which threatened to burn up the gods and the demons. From the fire there came out all sorts of poisonous snakes and venomous insects. This was followed by a terrible poison known as Calcutta. No one knew what to do with the poison, it would have killed them all. The gods and the demons began to pray to Shiva for deliverance. Shiva appeared and swallowed up the poison. It stuck in his throat and made his throat blue in color. Since Nila means blue and Kanta means throat, Shiva came to be known as Neelkantha. With the danger removed, the churning continued and Dhanvantari came out of the ocean. He was the physician of the gods and the originator of medicine, Ayurveda. Ganvantari held the pot of Amrita in his hands. The demons immediately started to fight over the possession of the Amrita. But Vishnu adopted the form of a beautiful woman, known as Mohini. This woman was so pretty that all the demons fell in love with her and gladly handed over the pot of Amrita to her. But they continued to fight with the gods. While the fighting went on, Vishnu secretly fed the gods the Amrita. The gods became immortal. The demons received no Amrita, not a single drop. That was not quite true. There was a demon named Rahu. He adopted the form of a god and managed to get a little bit of the Amrita. But Surya and Chandra spotted the deception and pointed it out to Vishnu. Vishnu promptly severed Rahu's head with his chakra. The Amrita never percolated down beyond Rahu's throat. But the demon's head had had its share of the Amrita and became immortal. Rahu never forgave Surya and Chandra for telling on him. Rahu's head tries to swallow up the sun and the moon, given a chance. You can see this happening at the time of the solar and lunar eclipses. This was the story of Vishnu's turtle incarnation. Architecture. The science of architecture owes its origin to 18 great sages. Their names are Bhrigu, Atri, Vasistha, Vishwakarma, Maya, Narda, Nagnajita, Vishalaksha, Purnadara, Brahma, Kartikeya, Nandishvara, Shaunka, Garga, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Shukra, and Brihaspati. The building of a house should never be begun in the month of Chaitra. A person who does this is sure to contract a disease. The month of Vaishakha is a good time to begin. One who does this is bound to own many cows. The months of Akhyana, Magha and Falguna are also auspicious. An individual who begins the task in Akhyana has full granaries. One who begins it in Magha attains all sorts of riches, and one who begins it in Falguna obtains gold and sons. Ashta is also a good month to start. Servants and animals are owed by a person who starts the building in Ashta. But the months of Jyeshtha, Shravana, Bhadra, Ashwina and Posha are inauspicious. If you start in Jyeshtha, you will die soon. You will also die if you begin in Shravana, begin in Bhadra, and you will suffer from all manner of less. Your wife will die if you start the task in the month of Ashwina, and all your goods will be stolen if you start in the month of Posha. It is best to begin the building of a house when the nakshatras Ashwini, Rohini, Mula, Uttarbhadrapada, Uttarashta, Uttara Falguni or Mrigashira are in the sky. Any day is permissible with the exception of Sunday and Tuesday. The ground on which the house is to be built has to be tested. A pit should be dug and a sapling planted. If the sapling thrives and grows into a big tree, the ground has been well chosen. But if the tree withers away or does not grow into a strong tree, one ought to move somewhere else. A diagram is then drawn on the ground, in the form of a square with 8 even smaller squares inside it. That is, the larger square will be subdivided into 9 squares along very side. 9 multiplied by 9 gives the 8 even smaller squares. In each of these 8 even smaller squares, a specific god has to be worshipped. There are different types of houses. A house that has doors on all 4 sides is known as a Sarvatavadra. Such a configuration is recommended for palaces or temples. A house that does not have a door to the west is known as a Nandyavarta. A house that does not have a door to the south is known as a Varadamana. A house that does not have a door to the east is known as a Swastika, and a house that does not have a door to the north is known as Rachka. A palace should be 108 cubits, hand lengths, in length. If a prince, and not a king, is to live in the palace, 66 cubits are the recommended length. Other recommended lengths are 64 cubits for generals, 48 cubits for ministers, 28 cubits for artisans and 12 cubits for messengers and guards. Priests and physicians are entitled to 24 cubits. An ordinary householder should build a house that is 32 cubits in length. The sole exception is an outcast, he is entitled to only 16 cubits. There should not be any trees in the front of the house. But trees have to be planted towards the back. The wood with which the house has to be built must be carefully chosen. One must not cut down a tree that birds have built nests on. Certain trees must never be chosen. These include those that have been gashed by an elephant or struck by lightning. They also include trees that grow near temples or at the of rivers and trees from cremation grounds. Neem trees and mango trees must never be used for building houses. The height of the tree should be multiplied by its circumference. This product should now be divided by 8. If the remainder that is left is 1, the timber can be used in building any part of the house. Such timber is known as dhwaja. When the remainder is 2, the timber is known vrisha and should be used in constructing the western door. When the remainder is 3, the timber is called singha and should be used for the northern door. The name is vrishpa if the remainder is 4, and such wood should be used for the eastern door. When the remainder is 5, the timber is given the name of hasti and should be used for the southern door. Idols have to be instated in temples. Vishnu's image should have either 8 hands or 4. If there are 8 hands, the arms to the right should hold a shankha, concha shell, a gada, make, a shara, arrow, and a padma, lotus. The arms to the left should hold dhanu, bow, a padma, a shankha and a chakra, bladed discus. If there are 4 hands, the make and the lotus should be to the right and the chakra and the conch shell to the left. Vishnu will be shown standing on the world. Garuda, the king of the birds, bears him around. Garuda will therefore be shown at Vishnu's feet, towards the right. Lakshmi's image must always be to the left of Vishnu's image, and Lakshmi will hold a lotus in her hand. The best idols are made out of gold, silver, copper, jewels, stone, wood, from alloys. The proportions of the various parts of the body must be exactly right. Shiva's image must have matted hair and he must wear a crescent moon on his forehead. The idol must convey the impression that Shiva is 16 years old. Shiva must be dressed in tiger skin and must be garlanded with snakes. A peacock feather should adorn on ear. If a spear, a rod or a trident are shown, they must be to the right. And if a skull, a snake or a sword are shown, they must be to the left. When Shiva is shown riding a bull, his image has 2 hands. But when he is shown in a dancing posture, the image has 10 hands. If the intention is to show him destroying Tripura, the image must have 16 hands. There is one particular image that deserves special mention. This is known as Aradhanarishwara, half male and half female. The Shiva part of the image will be to the right and the Parvati part of the image will be to the left. The right hand of the image will hold a skull or a trident and the left hand of the image will hold a lotus or a mirror. There is another type of image known as Uma Maheshwara. In this case, there are 2 separate images, one of Shiva and the other of Parvati. The idols of various other gods and goddesses are also described. Pavilions, mandapa, these are classified in terms of the number of pillars that are used in their construction, and there are 27 main types of pavilions. A Pushpaka pavilion has 64 pillars. 2. A Pushpabhadra pavilion has 62 pillars. 3. A Suvrata pavilion has 60 pillars. 4. An Amritanandana pavilion has 58 pillars. V. A Daushalya pavilion has 56 pillars. 6. A Bodhisankirna pavilion has 54 pillars. 7. A Gajbhadra pavilion has 52 pillars. 8. A Jaivaya pavilion has 50 pillars. 9. A Srivatsa pavilion has 48 pillars. Kiss Smiley A Vijaya pavilion has 46 pillars. 11. A Vastukirti pavilion has 44 pillars. 12. A Shrutinjaya pavilion has 42 pillars. 13. A Yajnavadra pavilion has 40 pillars. 14. A Vishala pavilion has 38 pillars. 15. A Sushlishta pavilion has 36 pillars. 16. A Shatrumradna pavilion has 34 pillars. 17. A Bhagapancha pavilion has 32 pillars. 18. A Nandana pavilion has 30 pillars. 19. A Manva pavilion has 28 pillars. XX. A Manavadraka pavilion has 26 pillars. 21. A Sugriva pavilion has 24 pillars. 22. A Herta pavilion has 22 pillars. 23. A Karnikra pavilion has 20 pillars. Xiv. A Shataradhika pavilion has 18 pillars. XXV. A Singha pavilion has 16 pillars. XXV. A Shyambhadra pavilion has 14 pillars. XXV. A Samudra pavilion has 12 pillars. Pavilions should be triangular, semicircular or rectangular. Donations. There are different methods of donating alms. One of the most sacred is known as Tulpurusha. In this, a pair of scales is used. The person who is donating the alms ascends on one side of the scales and gold is placed on the other side until the scales are exactly balanced. This is the amount of gold that has to be donated if punya is to be acquired. A second sort of donation is known as Hiranyagarbha. In this, a pot full of gold is donated. In a third form of donation, a model of the universe, Brahmanda, is fashioned out of gold and donated. This form of donation is therefore known as Brahmanda. The fourth form of donation is known as Kalpatpa. In this, a tree is made out of gold and donated. The fifth form of donation is known as Gosahasra and involves the donation of 1,000 cows. The sixth form of donation is known as Kamdenu. The object of donation in this case is a cow and calf, both made out of gold. The seventh form of donation is similar and is known as Hiranyashv. A horse made out of gold is donated. The eighth form of donation is called Ashvarta. A horse, Ashv, and 4 chariots, Ratha, have to be donated and both have to be made out of gold. Hemhastirtha is the ninth form of donation. The objects or donation in this case are an elephant and a chariot made out of gold. The 10th form of donation is known as Panchal Nagalaka. In this case, 10 plows are donated. 5 of them have to be made of wood and the remaining 5 have to be made of gold. The 11th form of donation is Dara. In his case, a golden model of the earth is donated. The 12th form of donation is known as Vishvachakra. The object that is donated is again a model made out of gold. The model is that of the universe in the shape of a wheel. The 13th form of donation is Mahakalaplaka. 10 creepers made out of gold are donated. The 14th form of donation is Saptasegra. Pits are made in the ground, there being 7 of them. Each pit stands for one of the 7 oceans. In the first pit is put salt, in the second milk, in the third clarified butter, in the fourth molasses, in the fifth curds, in the sixth sugar, and in the seventh holy water. An image of a god or goddess is then placed in each pit, Brahma in the first, Vishnu in the second, Shiva in the third, Surya in the 4th, Yam in the 5th, Lakshmi in the 6th and Parvati in the 7th. The images must be made out of gold. The pits are then filled to the brim with jewels and the entire contents donated. The 15th form of donation is called Ratnadrenu. In this case, a cow made out of gold is donated. The nose, the eyes, the brows and various other parts of the cow should be made out of jewels. The 16th form of donation is called Mahabhutkata. A pot is made out of gold, filled with jewels and donated. These different forms of donation are superior to all other forms of donation, and bring undying punya. Epilogue. Lumaharshana completed his recital of the Matsya Purana. This text is exceedingly sacred. A person who reads even one chapter of the text goes to heaven and all his sins are forgiven. The sages thanked Lumaharshana and departed. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.